This is exciting. The Viltrox 16mm f1.8 for full-frame Nikon Z cameras. Yeah! Hi, it's Cheng here from RED35. I am super excited about Viltrox's latest release, the 1.8 aperture 60mm extreme ultra wide angle for full-frame Nikon Z cameras. If you remember, just a couple of Viltrox reviews before this particular one, I did ask them for something professional grade, professional built with professional optical quality for Nikon full-frame cameras. And I guess they just granted my wish. And this Viltrox 16mm f1.8 is just that lens. With that said, this Viltrox 16mm f1.8 is simply fantastic. I mentioned it's pro-grade lenses. Yeah, this is a pro-grade build quality lens. Full metal barrel, proper glass elements there. There really isn't much to complain about when it comes to build quality or the material they use for this particular lens right here. The only plastic bits that you will find is the custom switches here and also that little digital window, which I'll come to that in a minute. Focusing ring is silky smooth, so is the aperture ring. It just have that really nicely damped and reassuringly click, but had that subtle kind of quality damping to it. It just feels great. And we photographers all love a little bit of a manual actions there, and having an aperture ring is always a plus. With that said, all previous Viltrox Pro Grade lenses were reserved for APS-C users. Nothing for full-frame guys like myself. Well, I do have an APS-C camera here, but I am using my ZF for majority of the time when I'm out and about shooting, so I would like to see something full-frame. And I'm really happy, finally see a pro grade level lens. The reason I say that is because not only just about the build quality, but also about weather sealing. And you can see right here, there's a rubber ring at the mount, and also there is rubber sealing all inside here as well. That means that this guy here is dust and splash proof, which is great when I'm shooting in light rain situations. I wouldn't bank on it when it's like proper downpour, nothing that I think that my ZF will withstand anyway, unlike my Olympus cameras, but at least I know something's weather sealed. So in light drizzle scenarios, I will be happy to use this lens and the setup all together. So this is great news. This is great news for all the full frame ZF users, and I'm pretty sure and very certain that this won't be the last lens or last pro grade lens for full frame Z camera users. When it comes to handling, well, I would say that this is slightly on the big side, but I wouldn't say it's extremely big, given the fact that this is a 16mm and with an aperture size of 1.8. So this is a pretty decent size lens, but like many of the full frame lenses I've tested before, they are usually quite a bit bigger than Micro Four Thirds or APS-C equivalent for that matter anyway. So this is not bad, but when you do mount it onto the ZF, because ZF is quite a heavy beast already, and you mount it on, it does give you a balanced feel. But if you mount it on a slightly lighter ZF-C, you may find it just a little bit front heavy because of not only about the weight, but also the length of the lens as well. So just to have the better in mind. So I guess this is probably better suited for a camera with even heavier body, or maybe even with a bigger grip or bigger body, such as the Z9, the ZA, or maybe even Z7. I think those cameras would be better suited for this type of lenses. However, I did use it on the ZF, and it seems to be quite okay. But just like anything as I reviewed before, this is a lens at the end of the day, so I don't really care about build quality as much, maybe to a certain extent, but my concern, my main and only concern, is the optical quality, because, I am buying a lens or I'm testing a lens because I wanted it to perform so I can actually use the lens in the field, right? So how does it perform? Well, let's see. As you can see, the images come out from it is actually very, very amazing. I can assure you that this lens outperforms some of the other lenses I have from the Nikon Z cameras before. This is definitely one of the sharper lenses in the ultra wide category, but the amazing thing is, well, it's sharp edge to edge and even at 1.8. As you can see from my lovely brick wall test, the central sharpness is excellent. At 1.8, yeah, it's already achieving the results that I actually would call it sharp. There's no halo, no smearing, no softness anywhere. The central sharpness is just really, really good at 1.8. You stop down a little bit more, 2.8, 4 is already excellent. Peak does arrive at 5.6 and diffraction won't come in until f11. Edge sharpness is slightly lagging behind the central sharpness, and I wouldn't call it bad, but at 1.8, it does exhibit a little bit of a softness there, almost like you're adding a mist filter on it. By 2.8, you're getting quite decent results. Peak performance arrives at 5.6, diffraction will come in at around f11, and this lens does stop down to f22, but I would say that it's better to reserve for emergency only. One of my biggest worries on using third-party lenses on any camera is optical corrections. Simply, there are no lens profile to correct any of the flaws it will exhibit on this. And that means that any of the good lenses from China will have to be optically corrected. And I can say that this Viltrox 60mm, despite its ultra-wide field of view, is really, really good. It's optically corrected, so I see a lot of straight lines everywhere. There is a very tiny hint of barrel distortions there, but I wouldn't say anywhere near as bad as some of the even like big name Nikon or even like Canon and Sony lenses, because they all relying on a lens profile to correct the distortion these days. While this one, you don't really need to. You switch out the profile, it remain nice and straight, which is amazing. And same thing with the aberrations as well. I mean, I think that these are even shooting at 1.8, I really don't see much of the aberrations here. There's no purple fringing in high contrast scenario. So one heck of a lens, if you ask me. Well done, Viltrox, for designing a lens with such a high quality optics. Flare is also quite well controlled as well. I mean, I don't know what kind of coating they use for this lens here, but you know, it's just amazing, man. Shoot directly to the sun, and I can't really see much of it. There is, of course, some ghosting, which will always happen no matter what lens you use, whether it's going to be an extremely expensive lens from, like, you know, all the major brands there, you're always going to get something from it. So I would say that this is kind of on par with some of the higher end. I wouldn't say the extremely high level lenses that you get, you know, from Leica, for instance, or maybe the top range Nikon lenses, you know, but it's actually very good considering, you know, the price of this guy here is nowhere near any of those lenses I just mentioned there. So it's just amazing. So flare, well controlled, well done. So what about vignette and bokeh? Well, vignette does present, don't get me wrong, because there's no lens profile to correct any of the light losses, any corners. As you can see from my brick wall test earlier, at 1.8, there is quite a bit of a light loss there. The dark corners is about 1 to 1.5 stop, which is not too bad, you know, considering what this type of lenses is, and you can correct it in post quite easily. The dark corner will continue all the way to about 2.8. By f4 to 5.6, you are pretty much getting a very even exposed frame, which is kind of cool. But if you shoot landscape using this type of focal length, you probably want to stop down anyway to get the depth of field, even if not like kind of focus stack anyway. So you are going to be okay with this type of lens performance. And bokeh, well, interesting enough that this guy does have a switchable character. By means of that, when you're sitting at 1.8, you will get some old school rendering, which is kind of cool. And I think the bokeh is quite creamy with that analog look as well. But when you stop at 2.8, all of a sudden, everything becomes so clinical, very modern. So it's definitely interesting. I'm quite curious about, you know, how Viltrox does that. When it comes to features, well, this Viltrox basically packed with that. Well, for a lens, of course. To start it, there are a couple of function buttons right here that you can customize. Great. There is a AF FM switch, so you can switch to manual focus with this little click right here without having to go through the menu. And third, for all those videographers out there, you can declick the aperture. Fantastic. But what interests me the most is that tiny little digital window right in front of the lens. Is amazing. I like windows like this to display all the information I need about the setting of the lens. The ZF does give me a little window to tell me the aperture size that I set to the lens, but this gives me way more than that. Not only just the aperture size, but also giving distance scales and also depth of field. I love this. I love these features. I know there are several lenses out in the Sony cam, and even some of the Nikon lenses have similar features. And this is a Viltrox. This is a third-party lens. They included these features right here. They're just fantastic for the price. So I can't argue with that. In terms of features, this guy wins. And finally, what about video application? Well, interesting enough, this lens does exhibit a little bit of breathing when you rack focus. But once again, that this is an extreme ultra wide. Most of the time, you're not going to rack focus with this type of focal length. You'll be used for entrance shots, establishing shots, something quite dramatic, low angle chasing, whatever, something like that, right? So I don't think you're going to rack focus. So breathing shouldn't be an issue at all with this lens. Good, right? And so this lens can be used for videos, if you really want to. And the motor that they use here is fast enough to do any sort of focus tracking. But once again, this is the ultra wide. So in terms of focus performance, it's a lot more forgiving when it comes to automations in camera. So I don't think it should be a problem when you want to adapt this lens for any of the video applications there, if you want to use this type of really extreme ultra wide focal length. So that's it, folks. This is the review for Viltrox 16mm f1.8 pro-grade build quality and optics performing lens from Viltrox. They didn't label this lens as pro, not like the 75mm 1.8 for APS-C cameras, and that is labeled as pro. This guy isn't. It's not labeled as pro, even though I said it's a pro lens, because it does build like one. It's certainly a several step up from the 28mm 1.8 lens that I've been using for all my jobs. In fact, I'm actually filming with that right now, and I really like that lens. So highly recommend it if anyone looking for a pro-grade body and optical performing lens with a 16mm focal length. It's quite a niche lens when it comes to focal length like this wide, because it may be great for astrophotography or certain, very specific applications. But for me, a 16mm lens is only reserved for a certain type of photography or videoing. So it's not a versatile lens as such. But if you do use a wide angle lens like this, yeah, it's no doubt this is no-brainer for the price. You're not going to get any better than this. So what I'm asking for Viltrox perhaps in the future is starting to produce similar sort of quality lenses with similar build and function and features for other focal lengths. And I'll be looking for maybe perhaps another 28mm that will replace the 1.8 that I'm using right now with weather sealing and things like that. And even better still, give me a 50mm 1.4. Oh, that will be sweet, right? And then another 85 1.8 or 1.4. That will complete my trinity of lenses, and that will be amazing. And maybe some zoom lenses in the future. I think I'm dreaming. But hey, Viltrox, you just basically granted my wish with a weather-sealed pro-grade build quality lens. Why not wishing for more? Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and let me know your thoughts about this particular Viltrox lens right here. And it's just amazing, and I think, you guys won't regret it if you buy it, so long you use that 16mm focal length. Anyway, you know what to do now. Some people like this video, and sub if you want to stay in touch with all things photography and filmmaking. Until next time, bye for now. Peace. Welcome to the bonus sections, and yes, I really dig this lens. I mean, this is a 16mm. It's not something that I would use it very often on a daily basis, but I do keep it in my bag. So in case I need some ultra wide shots, or even shooting in a very confined space, and this does come in very handy, especially given a 1.8 aperture. That means you can do a lot of low light stuff indoor. So great stuff if you're a wedding photographer or anything like that using Nikon Z camera. This is really a no-brainer, because you do need an ultra wide in such environments, especially shooting indoor. So this is cool. This is cool. It's not a lens I would say that is going to be used like 90% of the time, unless you are the type of photographer who do landscape astro, who needs a lot of ultra wide angle field of view. Otherwise, then it is going to be an essential lens, but not a most versatile lens in my bag. Like I said, if Viltrox does produce a 28, maybe even a 50 or 85, those would be the lenses I'd use the most as a portrait guy. But I would say the 50, probably 50 would be my favorite. But anyway, so this is it. This is actually really, really cool. I do like this lens here. Let me know in the comment section below, like I said, about your thoughts on Viltrox latest I wouldn't say invention, but latest design of the lens here for full frame cameras, because I do think that they're doing a great job. They're expanding their range, and I just can't wait to see what they're gonna have. I mean, I also have other lenses coming up from them as well. I do have the 14mm f2.5 mini lens for any full frame cameras, which I think once again they've done a great job in giving users a choice, not only just for budget purposes, but also when it comes to size and weight of the actual lens itself. So if you want a lightweight system just to go out for a day, having a couple of lenses, those 2.5 lenses are actually very, very good. And when it comes to weather sealing, when you take out in the rain or maybe in a slightly more demanding environment, you do have starting to have these pro grade level lenses starting to appear now in the catalog. So yeah, it's really interesting to see what Viltrox is going to do in the future, and I am going to be definitely looking out for that, and I'm pretty sure you will be as well. So if you really want to follow Viltrox journey, we want to stay tuned in this channel. So because now I'm starting to review a lot of the lenses there, so I'm pretty sure that the more are going to come in this channel. So stay tuned for those. Until next time, have a good day, keep shooting, be well.